Know he a genius, he just can't claim it. Cause they left him no platforms to explain it. He frustrated, so he get faded. But deep down inside, he know you can't.
Hey y'all, it's your boy Ace Billions back with another Billionaire Mafia Podcast. Today, I got a hardworking, ambitious, thriving young entrepreneur. You know, we like to put the spotlight on entrepreneurs. So we got Nate Skala in the house today. Talk to the people, man. Tell them about yourself.
Ace, first of all, I appreciate you for having me on the podcast. It's a great opportunity. So I'm 22 years old. I'm a Las Vegas local, just like you. And I got into vending machines because I believe that ownership and passive income and multiple income streams is really the key to acquiring wealth and acquiring financial freedom. So that's ultimately what my ambition was when it
It's all good. Keep going.
So
tell me where you from? Like where's your family from? Where you were born and raised?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Phoenix, Arizona. I moved out here when I was 4 years old, and I grew up out here in Las Vegas. So, you know, Vegas is pretty much all I've really known. Now, when it came to becoming an entrepreneur and stepping into business full time, they didn't teach that in school. So I was looking up to people like, you know, Mark Cuban or Kanye West and Jay-Z and, you know, seeing what they did for themselves. And so I came across YouTube, and on YouTube I stumbled upon Vending Machines, and I realized that that could be a good passive income towards, you know, creating something that can create wealth and create financial freedom for myself.
Okay, how long have you been in the vending machine game?
So technically, I started the LLC about 2 years ago. So that's when I launched the LLC itself. I acquired my first few machines in summer of 2022. I got my first location December of 2022. It was a rough summer trying to get those first few locations. It was really frustrating. You know, going door to door to businesses and, you know, getting rejected by businesses. It was painful at first.
So tell me about that. Tell me more about the rejection that you faced doing that, because I know a lot of people that try to do the door-to-door sales or like cold calls or even like work up the courage to go out there and sell their product. What made you have that courage to keep going out there and get rejected in order to get your business off the ground?
Well, you know, I just remembered that everybody who has the level of success that I aspire to have one day, you know, I realized that they had a starting point.
Right.
You know, when Steve Jobs launched Apple, and he was talking about, you know, creating a computer that had colors on it and different, you know, typographies, people laughed at him.
Right.
You know, I take a look at, you know, Mark Zuckerberg when he launched Facebook. Not exactly the biggest fan of him, but, you know, he launched that out of his college dorm. And, you know, he almost got kicked out of school for it, too.
Right.
You know, there's a whole bunch of different stories of entrepreneurs. Now, those two guys, you know, they invented something from scratch. I'm not trying to do that. But I realized that they all had a starting point. So for me, that starting point was going into these businesses, facing rejection, and then finding ways to get better, which eventually I did, and I ended up getting a location shortly after that.
What's your biggest objection for people?
Like the biggest objection that I would get?
Yeah, like main objection that you usually get and you got to face and overcome.
I'm not the person in charge here, or, you know, the manager's not around.
Yeah.
Or, you know, we already have vending machines in here.
So what would you say to that?
So in that essence, I would, number one, I'd ask when the manager would be around so I can come back and visit them. I would ask for a contact information, or better yet, I'd say, okay, well, I understand you're not the person in charge. Let me ask you, though, if it were up to you, what would you say?
Right.
If I were to ask you if you guys would like vending machines in the office.
Okay.
So those are a few ways that I overcame it.
And then you just went out there back to back. Was it the failures that motivated you, or when you got your first win that motivated you the most?
Well, actually, going door to door to businesses is not how I got my first location.
Oh, how did you do it?
So there's a website that sells locations. Basically, what they do is they do all the cold calling. They have businesses that will call them and say that they're looking for vending machines, and what they'll do is they'll sell leads to vending machine business owners.
Oh,
so
I know that.
Yeah, well, now that I kind of have, you know, a little bit of a better idea of how to get locations myself, and now that I have 2 clients under my belt, I probably wouldn't buy more leads.
You cut out the middleman.
Yeah, well, the very first time I bought a lead, it was $700. It was for a location that it was a bakery location here in Vegas, and they had about 150 employees. I bought the lead. I went there. I pitched my services. I showed them my machines, and they ended up going with a competitor of mine. So I basically lost the $700, and I'm like, oh man, well, you know what? I'm gonna put another $500 on a different location. So I did that, and then I ended up securing my first client that way.
Okay, yeah. So talking to you just in that brief moment, it seemed like you got a lot of ambition and a lot of like go get about yourself. Where does that come from?
Honestly, I just have a fear of being average. I really do. I have a fear of not being able to make an impact, and you know, I've always been big into creating things, and you know, I'm very grateful for the position that I have. I still do work full time, and I'm very grateful for that position. I get to work with a lot of great people. I get to learn from a lot of great people, but I feel like I have that ambition, I have that drive because I want to have ownership over every area of my life. That includes time, that includes finances, and you know, I've never been great at following systems. I've been better at creating them. You can ask any teacher that ever knew me in school that question.
Was you rebellious in high school?
Huh?
Was you rebellious in high school, or were you
terrible class clown? Always had something to say. I'm still that same way sometimes in some areas.
I mean, I think that's the characteristic of a entrepreneur in the whole. Like, we all got that rebellious part of us, or rebellious spirit about ourselves that just doesn't want to just conform to the norm or conform to what everybody else is doing, and we always the outliers at the end of the day. And being that, like being a class clown, or that actually is what gave us the confidence to be entrepreneurs, and it's a habit that's formed. I say, do you feel like it was in your DNA, or do you feel like you kind of had to like formulate that characteristic as you grew up?
I've always been that way for as long as I can remember. I've always been questioning the norm. I've always been questioning, you know, the regular way of doing things. I've always been questioning the rules and, you know, what everybody considers to be normal or the set standard. And I feel like for entrepreneurs, you have to do that thing. That's where innovation comes from, is when you question the norm, is when you question the regular way of doing things. If nobody ever did that, then I don't think society would have ever advanced as far as it has.
Right.
So,
do you read books and study? What do you study to get the mindset that you got?
I do a lot of reading. I like to read a lot of books on finance, on business. I like to read a lot of books on investing, human behavior. I feel like human behavior is really important when you're trying to understand business, because you have to understand consumers and you have to understand consumer behavior.
What's your favorite top three books for the people?
First book I would have to say is The Latte Factor. That's a great one on personal finance. Huh?
I haven't heard of that. That's crazy. That's the one book that all the books that I read I haven't heard of. What's the next one? What you got?
So I would have to say it's the Steve Jobs biography. That one was pretty good. That one's by Walter Isaacson. And then another one is Think and Grow Rich. That's always a good classic.
My favorite, man. I read Think and Grow Rich at least once a year. I have to, just to reset and get my mind back on point to realizing, because sometimes you forget about manifestation. You'll be trying to work so hard and put your effort into certain things that you forget that it's the actual mindset that you're in that actually attracts the things that you want in life, not the action. Like, have you ever heard of the 80-20 rule, or the law of least effort? Like, so that's the same thing as laws of attraction. Is putting more manifestation into the things and affirmation into the things that you want in life versus the work. Like, working smarter and harder is the same. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's that aspect of creating that mindset. So I'll read that book at least once a year. What did you get from that book that really just changed your life or changed your path for you?
It just really just comes down to, you know, taking ownership over every part of your life and everything that you do.
Right.
That's the biggest thing I got out of that book. Now, I have not.
You got
read
that burning desire, though. You got that. That's the number one.
I haven't read it in about 2 years. I'm probably due for a refresher. If you read it
refresh those
yourself.
for sure.
So I'm gonna have to dust that one off the bookshelf.
That's a book that you never stop learning in, man. You can always go back and you find another gem, like something that just ignites that fire again. I think the first law of like finding that burning desire is the one that kind of like took me there, because I always got to find something that like not necessarily just like I can't do the same thing every day, bro. Like, I'll burn out. And the only thing that keeps me going is finding something that lights my fire. Like that every day, if I'm doing something that lights my fire that I can do without, like doing this podcast. Like if I can do that and be motivated, I can do it all the time at my highest peak performance. And I feel like that's the number one thing I got out of that book. Well, you said the first book was the Latte. Tell me about that book. I have never read that book.
So basically, the Latte Factor, it talks a lot about where you're putting your money and how it can basically make an impact on the future state of your personal finances, right? So essentially, if I were to sum up that book, it's really telling you that sometimes it's not an income problem, it's really a spending problem, and where you're putting your money. Are you putting your money in, and putting it into different investments, or are you making other people rich?
Right.
Because everybody's building wealth. It's just a question or not of whether you're building it for yourself or whether you're building it for other people. So
Okay. What's some of the best advice that you've gotten from? Do you have a mentor?
not as of right now, I do not.
Okay, where you get your inspiration from, or what's some of the best advice that you've gotten within your lifetime?
So I would say I'm mostly inspired by entrepreneurs like Mark Cuban. I look up to him a lot. Entrepreneurs like, to some degree, Steve Jobs. I look up to Damon John a lot. A lot of the people on Shark Tank, I really like their stories. But when it comes to where I get a lot of my, where I do a lot of my learning, it really does come from books right now. It comes from online courses. I love Masterclass. That's a great online tool for, taking courses and learning from.
Love Masterclass.
Yeah, learning from other successful individuals. I would like a mentor, and that is something that I would be looking for. And that's, for me, that's just all about, putting myself in the right places to find that.
Right, definitely. And what would you look for in a mentor? What is it that the characteristics that you're trying to build right now?
I would say somebody who's been there and done that, somebody who has grit, someone who has a lot of self-discipline, someone who has failed a lot, right? I feel like someone who's failed a lot and, somehow managed to work their way up to the mountain of success and, has that type of experience to base their advice off of whatever they would give to me.
Okay, what was your first business? Was this vending machine thing your first business, or did you have like a Kickstarter for you? That because mine was selling candy. I used to sell candy at school, probably middle school, finding them at the 99 for 50 cents and then selling them for $1. That was my first thing that kind of got me started.
I feel like every school had that kid.
Yeah, that was me. Big hustle. But what was yours? What got you started?
So my very first business, I would say, it was when I was younger. I was I was either 11 or 12 years old, and I would go around the apartment complex that I lived in with my dad, and I would do the same thing, sell candy, sell things to my neighbors. And then shortly after that, when I was in freshman year, sophomore year, I started a clothing line that, I would basically just, sell stuff with my friends. We had our clothing line, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I just knew that I wanted to have something that would make money. And then right before I started the vending machine business, I was starting to get into hypewear. I was starting to resell sneakers, resell, Supreme, resell Bape.
Okay.
And then SneakerBot started getting banned, and so that was the end of that. And then I came across vending machines on YouTube. So that's when I started to think, okay, I could use this as a starting point, make a lot of cash flow off of this business, continue to grow and expand it, and then maybe eventually move into other areas and other spaces.
Okay, YouTube University did it for you, huh?
YouTube University. Well, that's partially the reason why I think there's never been an easier time to start a business than now. Because there's so much that you can learn and there's so much exposure that you can create. I mean, think 50 years ago. How do you learn this stuff?
Yeah, I have no idea. You got to really pick up a book, or people have mentors. They will go really network and meet people, and it's different now. You got access to unlimited knowledge, and it's just the sky's the limit here. So the people that aren't successful, it's their own fault now. It's not not because you ain't your environment. It's not because you don't know anything now. It's because you haven't done the due diligence, or you haven't took the time out to do the research, because it's at your fingertips now, and that's crazy. We in a crazy time in the world to be an entrepreneur for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you have a lot of competition?
I do have a big competitor, right? And I don't have too many big competitors per se. There's a lot of smaller proprietors out there that are treating it as, side hustles, right? They're really not too. I would say there's a lot of people out there that have vending machines, but they're not thinking of scaling it nationally. They're not thinking of scaling it to other cities. They're just thinking of just taking the money and pocketing it, right? So, I guess you can consider those semi-competitors, but that's with what I'm really trying to do in the next few years. My biggest competitor, they're based in California. They have a lot of machines here in Vegas. They have machines in the airport. They currently have machines at my place of work, and eventually I plan on getting them out of there.
I like it.
Putting my machines. Yeah, I think some of my bosses will be on board with that. But the biggest opportunity that I would say I've noticed is they don't exactly have, ratings that tell me it would be hard to steal their clients.
Right.
Matter of fact, I've already had a couple of their clients ask me to switch over to my services instead. And I feel like when you're a really big company and you don't have any other big companies challenging your services, you might get a little bit relaxed when it comes to quality, when it comes to how you do business in person and, how you create that connection with your customers. So I feel like that's my opportunity to really grow and get myself to a point where I'm seriously competing with them.
So tell me more about that. So about how you separate yourself from your competitors.
Yeah, so the very first thing that I ever thought of is I want to find a way to get to really know my customers. And how do you do that at a vending machine, especially when you're not there? It's working on its own. It's doing its own thing. So that's why I decided to put QR codes on my machine that would let my customers communicate with me. They would be able to tell me what they want. They would be able to put in item requests. I make it really easy. If they need a refund for something, process is really simple. Scan the QR code, get your refund. You have an item that you like to see in the machine, tell us. When I go into the locations, I'm always giving stuff out for free. That's my marketing. Walk around your office and let your coworkers know that you just got something from the vending machine, right?
Yeah, that's dope. I love that.
So little ways like that, actually taking the time to build rapport with the people that come to my machines every day. And, just taking quality and everything, making sure I clean everything, making sure there's no expired items, but most importantly, making sure that I have systems for all of these little steps, systems and processes to make sure that the consistency is there.
Wow. Okay. So scaling-wise, what's your plan for scaling that business?
So this year, I want to add 3 more locations.
Okay.
So mathematically, that's going to require anywhere between $20,000 to maybe $24,000 worth of capital, right? And so what those 3 locations will do is that will take my business to a point to where we're bringing in $5,000 a month revenue. We probably will be around I would say 60% margin at that point. Right now, we're closer to 50%. I think when we have more locations and inventory is circulating a little quicker, we'll probably reach the 60% margin range. So that'll take us to 5,000. I want to double our locations. I want to double our revenue every year. So 5 locations by the end of this year, 10 locations by the end of next year, 20 locations by the end of the year after that. And the way that we're going to do that is, I basically have to take 3 different routes. Either A, I continue to just do this all myself, right? I'm contributing 50% of my income from work. It automatically deposits into my business account every 2 weeks. So 50% of my income goes there, right? I could raise additional capital from investors, which I already do. I already did that when I launched the company. So I still have a large stake in equity in the company. I have a lot of equity left, but I'm not so sure if I want to continue diluting that. So that's kind of the question. Do I really want to dilute more equity? Do I take on loans? Do I go for a line of credit? So it's just a little bit of a question as to what route I'm going to take for that expansion. So I'm just trying to find ways to get creative in that end right now.
Okay, and give me a creative aspect of that, like a creative strategy that you would take in order to scale without having to take out a big loan or without having to break your piggy bank pretty much. What would be a creative way that you would scale that business right now, and how are you marketing your company right now?
Yeah, so really, it's just talking to family and friends, talking to people that I work with. I have somebody that I'm not going to mention any names or anything specific right now, just for confidentiality. But I have someone that I'm very close with and someone that I look up to a lot that has expressed they're interested in investing in the company, and I feel like they would be a great addition to have just based off of their experience. So, say for example with that person, right? They want to own a little bit of my company for the long-term potential of it, and they have capital to, throw in there. So how do I work it? I'm thinking, okay, why don't we do this? I'll give you a small percentage of equity, maybe, somewhere between 1 to 5%. And what we'll set up the rest of that, or what we'll do with the rest of that is we'll set it up as a loan. So we'll do a venture loan, and then we'll set it out to a term to where it'll basically begin its term when the machines are operating. So we'll take the money, we'll go buy more machines with it. Once those machines are generating sales, the term begins. We'll take money from its revenue, and then we'll start paying you back that way.
Right.
But in a sense to where the company is still getting its cut of a profit out for that. Almost like buying an investment real estate property, right? You still have to pay the bank, but you're making sure that you charge rent to a point where you're still making a profit. So it's about calculating the sales, and it's basically just about calculating a good term at that point.
Okay, so when you looking for an investor versus a loan, what are you looking for? So I know you spoke about wanting an investor, but you're going about it as if it was a loan strategy. Would you want an investor that was a partner with you in the business, or are you just looking for that capital to basically be able to leverage?
Well, when I'm looking for an investor, right, it's almost like I want to get to know them. I want to get to know what they bring to the table. I want to get to know what their experience is, because if you're owning a part of a company, I feel like it's very important to get to know who that person is and understand what value they actually bring to it. How can they advise you in certain ways? Because your job as a business owner is to bring a great return to all the people that invest in you.
100%.
Right? But sometimes it's good to hear their feedback on, what they would do or what they would like to see. So for me, I want to take on an investor, somebody that can actually add value, whether it's from an advisor standpoint or whether it's somebody that can actually help with the business itself. So that is someone that would make a great investor to me.
So you can have a mentor and an investor and one, and kill two birds with one stone in a way.
Yeah, and anytime I've YouTube University, right? I look up lots of videos. What should you look for in an investor? And they're all the same thing. Make sure this is somebody that you can ask questions from, or ask questions to, and get different perspectives on. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to execute on every demand they make, but it's just, okay, like, where have you been? What other businesses have you invested in?
Right.
What other things career-wise have you done that could add value to the business? When it comes to taking on a loan from somebody, if it's somebody that, maybe wouldn't add a ton of value to the actual business itself from an operation standpoint, but they have capital that they want to put to work, maybe it's a good idea to do a loan at that point.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Because that's the big difference. Like, I see within, like, raising capital, like, if I get an investor, I want someone that I can learn from, somebody that the information and the value that you give is way more valuable to me than the money at that point, especially if I'm giving them some equity. Now, am I going to pay an interest on a loan? That's fine. It's just a wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. I get the payment done, and that's it. But if I'm giving somebody that I'm getting in bed with somebody, we're in a relationship now as an investor, and I look at it as I see value in people believing in my dream and coming into a project that I'm trying to build or trying to create from my mind power, basically. So it's like a seed that we planted. We want people to actually, the caretakers, to actually take care of of our seeds, just like we would. So it's the same thing with me. I look at it's a huge difference between an investor raising capital from an investor and then just getting a loan from somebody, just getting money from somebody. So I like that you actually thinking that through and you diving into that aspect of it, because that's probably the hardest thing for an entrepreneur is raising capital, like raising funds. Like, we all know how to start a business. We all know how to deliver. We all good at customer service. We believe that we good at marketing. But when it comes to, like, scale, you have to leverage other people's money.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's no, there is other ways, but it'll take you 10 times longer to get that way, and it'll be 10 times harder to get that way. But when you learn how to actually leverage that money, like, you become a whole different type of entrepreneur. You become somebody that can one day be a Fortune 500, Fortune 500 company that shareholders are confident to invest in your company. So that's great that you even thinking like that right now.
Well, that's why, I feel like, too, if your biggest focus is on how you can add value to your customers and, how you can create a business model that will bring value to everybody, then it's, as long as you know how to communicate that plan and you know how to communicate that opportunity, raising investors isn't really as challenging as, some people might think, or even just getting people to loan you money. Negotiate interest rate with them, something that'll bring them a reasonable return. But I'm not saying you got to do 20%. Sometimes, I got a couple where, it'll be like 7%, it'll be 10%, but it's, people that I don't mind giving that return to, because I know how to put that capital to work and I know what it would actually cost on a monthly basis. But, if you're trying to raise investors or you're trying to get, loans for your business, focus so much, put your focus on creating an opportunity that will bring value to everybody, to your customers, to the people that are giving you money and the people that believe in you. And as long as you know how to communicate that plan and that strategy, then, you'll have plenty of opportunities to raise that money.
Okay, I love it. So tell me how would you market this business that you have? How are you marketing it now? I know that's probably the hardest part when it comes to like sitting real estate, vending machines, and cash flow.
Oh, you know what? Well, there's I would have to say, okay, so obviously going back to that first location, right? I bought that lead.
Right.
I bought that lead. Well, I guess let's start here. There's two different areas of marketing in this business. You're marketing the actual service itself because you're technically doing business to business.
Right.
And then you're also going to have your individual customers, people that are buying from the machines, right? So if we're talking business to business, my second location, this location that is bringing in about $1,500 a month right now itself, that was a referral. That was somebody who I used to work with, and they actually ended up switching to a different company. They decided that they wanted to go pursue a different opportunity somewhere else. And because I had, talked about my business at work, they had said, hey, I work in a really big office that doesn't have vending machines right now. I'd love to get your machines in here. So
it just came to you.
Yeah,
referrals.
Just
that's the best way to get it, for sure.
And
best way to get it is referrals, baby.
100%.
Yeah.
I didn't have to buy that lead like the first one. So
cut this part. Okay. All right. So give me some of the worst advice that you've ever had.
Ooh. Work a job for 50 years and call it a life.
Facts.
Go to college, get an education, and play it safe. All the typical stuff that they tell you.
Yeah.
To manufacture employees.
Yep. 100%. Yep. Go to school.
Play it safe.
Did you go to college or did you get right into business out of high school?
No, this is actually gonna shock a lot of people, but one of the best decisions I ever made was dropping out of high school.
Yeah. Okay.
Sophomore year. If I could have done it sooner, I would have.
Tell me about that. What'd you end up doing? What made that decision for you?
Yeah, so it was a thing where I was living out of the country for a little bit. I was living in Canada for a couple months. I was actually playing hockey up there for a little bit.
Okay, you was an athlete.
Yeah, so I was doing that, and I had never enrolled into the online schooling that I was supposed to. I wasn't on the best of terms with, never mind. I'm not even gonna get into that. But anyways,
go in.
Let's just say this. Well, I'm not gonna put anybody that I'm close to on blast.
Oh no, you good.
But let's just say that there were reasons why I wasn't able to get enrolled into online school. So I was just focusing on practice up there, and I ended up coming back home a couple months later, and I just decided, okay, well, this is cool, but I want to learn how to make like money, like real money, and because living up there, like it was so different. Like I was on my own, I was kind of struggling. I really didn't have much money up there because I was 17 at the time, and my dad was pretty much supporting me. So I really didn't have money to go out there and really do too much except go to practice. and that's it. Go to practice, eat, sleep, do the same thing, repeat, right?
Right.
So I came back to Vegas. I got my first job, and I decided not to go back to high school. I just said, you know what? I'm going to get as much working experience right now as possible. So I got my first job at a breakfast restaurant. That only lasted 2.5 months. I hated it. But I still go there all the time. I still like going over there to eat.
Still got good rapport.
Yeah. And my second job was at a gym. It was Planet Fitness. Very interesting experience as well, too. Yeah, I know. Trust me.
It's all about Ace Fitness.
They put Tootsie Rolls over there at the front as you're trying to work out.
I believe it. I believe it. Eating pizza in the middle of your workouts is every Friday. How y'all get pizza?
Huh? Oh yeah. Pizza Fridays.
Yeah, that's
last
crazy
Friday of the
to me.
month. It's crazy how long ago that was. But I feel like that was really like my first job where I wouldn't necessarily say like that was sales, but I mean, I have to walk people around and tell them about, the different parts of the gym. And that's where I started getting comfortable, talking to people. Now, after that, my ex's mom, she got me a job at the place where I currently work, and that was entry-level sales for me. So that was over-the-phone sales, right? So I was doing that for a little bit, got furloughed because of the pandemic, and, it's a whole different story after that. There's a whole bunch of stuff that unfolded. But I feel like that right there was really my university. Was getting out in the world and trying different things, whether it was at that restaurant or whether it was at the gym.
Yeah. Real life.
Being in a different country for a couple months away from home. And I feel like I wouldn't have made a different decision.
Right.
I feel like at first, I had family that was very critical of me dropping out of high school, but now they're all pretty supportive and they see what I'm doing.
It seems like your dad was a big part of that, like, support system that you have. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, my dad and I were really close. He helps out a lot with my business. He helped a lot when I was playing sports. He supported me up there, even though he was tight on money. When I was up in Canada, him and I are really close, really tight knit. When it comes to the vending business, he'll do the inventory for me. He'll go restock the machines for one of the locations, and sometimes both of them, just that way I could focus on other areas of the business, like creating systems and processes for the business, creating social media content. Which, by the way, if I didn't create social media content and my friend didn't repost my story, and Amir didn't see it, then you and I wouldn't be talking right now.
Facts.
So. Just focusing on these little areas that will really help us grow and create those new opportunities. That's what I focus on. That's what I think my job as CEO is to not only find ways to make the business automate itself, but also find opportunities for us.
Right.
Especially me as an entrepreneur, just making sure that I'm finding the opportunities to learn more and just put myself out there.
Okay. And then how big is the content? Because right now, content is king. When it comes to every business, I don't care if you a janitor, if you're a detailing business or a gym or a vending machine company, content is king, and it just gets it just gets your customer to know you better and feel more familiar with you and bring that engagement to your company. What has content done for you so far?
I'm pretty new when it comes to creating content. So I'm doing all of this on my personal Instagram account. And then, I've slowly but surely been getting a little bit more active on TikTok just because I realize the algorithm on TikTok is crazy.
And you're young. That's where your people at. That's where they watching you at, man.
That's true.
Take over.
I didn't want to admit to that until recently, but yeah, it's true. Those are my people. But so for me, I just recently started creating content, and my content is based off of my journey as an entrepreneur. So I'm targeting that group, right? Just people who are wanting to start businesses, or I hate this term. I hate the term side hustle because I've never been a side hustle guy. But yeah, some people view vending machines as a side hustle. So I'm showing them how they could
turn it into a real business.
Turn it into a real business, or even just create it into a side hustle if that's really all you want to do.
Right.
Me, I've never been a side hustle guy because I don't like to stop. I like to keep going. So my content is based off of those things. I'm talking about, I'm creating videos and going to my location, pulling cash out the machines, showing how to clean the machines, showing how to, maintain the machines. But then it's the little things like Piecing together stuff to send to investors if you're trying to get more capital. Showing what it actually looks like when you got to do all the unfun, the non-fun aspects of the business, like
get your hands dirty.
And, just showing the actual reality of what building a startup from the ground up and bootstrapping it
And
looks like.
that's the content. I heard a great quote is, you don't create content, your life is already content. Like you document your life and that's your content.
That's a good
so
way to
everything that you're doing right now with your business and showing people is inspiring, because everyone was showing the pretty side of business, not really showing the gritty side of business. Now we go into a place where people want to see you as your personal brand and your brand connected and going throughout that journey of building your business and scaling your business and the pitfalls that you might face and the wins and the losses. Like people want to see that, and it brings people closer to your brand, because ultimately you're creating a brand. Because that's what lasts. Like no matter what you do, if you go from vending machines and then you say, okay, I want to start doing real estate, your brand is going to follow you. So your credibility is built within your brand. So people need to see every aspect of it. And it's kind of uncomfortable for especially people that aren't used to creating content. But is it something that you feel natural doing with creating content, or is this a whole nother obstacle for you to be able to conquer when it comes to showing that part of your life and your journey?
No, actually, I enjoy it.
Okay.
Sometimes my content is, mostly just sharing my thoughts.
Okay.
If I'm thinking something that I feel like is valuable, or something that's currently going on within my business, I share it.
Right.
I'll go on Canva, I'll create a good looking post, and I'll put it on Instagram, or sometimes I'll go on TikTok and I'll just start talking about a certain thing that came up in my business, or some advice that I would share, or something that I would do differently, and just aim to really add value to people in that aspect. Aim to add value to people in that way, not just making it about myself, but making it to where I can do something. I can do something to pay it forward to somebody else.
Right.
And that's how I hope to really establish myself when creating content and grow my following that way.
Okay. I love it. Perfect. So what's next for you? What do you see the future for you within the next 5 to 10 years?
Next 5 years, well, I would say within 5 years is fair. I want to step into business full time. I want to step into entrepreneurship full time. I'm really soaking up everything that I'm learning at my company and just at my position right now, learning how to not just manage people, but learning how to lead people, learning how to lead a team, learning how to develop those people skills and that emotional intelligence that will help me lead my own company one day when I hire people for my own company.
Right.
The other day, right, I just emailed a vice president within my company at work, and I said, hey, I really like this new change that you guys made, within the business. My question to you is, how do you guys go about making these types of decisions? And just asking questions, being willing to learn from the people above me. And I got an email back who was like, hey, I'm very impressed that, you're thinking about these sorts of things. Here's how it's done. And just taking advantage of these systems around me. So I'm soaking up that opportunity right now, so that way in the next 5 years, I can step into business full time. And then I'm thinking after I step into business, that's when it'll really start growing. Once I'm able to give that my full attention, once I'm able to pay myself a nice salary and, devote all of my time to the business, that's when I think we'll really be able to start growing in ways to where in the next 10 years, we can either be talking about a possible exit, even though I hate that word because I don't really see myself selling my business. But if the right opportunity presents itself, we'll see. And starting more businesses after that. So if I can first take ownership over my time in the next 5 years, the possibilities are endless over the next 10.
Okay. And then once you reach that point in that pinnacle of life, I feel like everybody, they want to get to a certain point where they financially free and they're able to do and live life on their own terms. That's why we're in business at the end of the day. We're not in business for it to own us, but to own the business and be able to run it without having to trade our time for money in a way. So once you're free, financially free, what's your plan and how you plan on getting there?
How I plan on getting there?
Yeah.
It definitely starts with getting more vending locations.
Okay.
I think
You want to stay with that, stay with the model that you have and grow it?
Yes, focusing on one thing right now, right? I do believe in diversifying. I think right now it's a little bit too early to diversify because I need to first get this to a point where it's making so much money that I can take money from it and put it into other areas. So that is my niche right now, is vending machines. I feel like mathematically when I get to a point where I have maybe close to 30 locations, you know, we'll be bringing in close to $300,000 a year in revenue. I feel like at that point I'll be comfortable stepping into full-time business myself. And so I'm hoping to do that within the next 3 to 4 years, getting to a point where we're making that kind of money. Now, after that, I want to start, I would say, trying to attract bigger investors. You know, what I've noticed is that a lot of these big investors, like even Shark Tank, right? I get a lot of inspiration from Shark Tank. I really don't watch TV. I don't spend too much time doing that because I try to never really have free time like that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm always just trying to do something. But if I do, it's usually Shark Tank. That's how I come up with different ideas on how to raise capital. That's, you know, how I hear how, you know, these investors are, you know, doing their due diligence on these deals, right? But one thing that I found in common is that they don't want to put big money into businesses where the entrepreneur is not yet a full-time business owner, just yet, in most cases, unless it's something extremely disruptive. Right. So I feel like being able to say that I have full control of my time and I'm able to give my full attention to the business will open up more opportunities for me in that sense to grow the business from a financial standpoint and grow myself as an entrepreneur from just an experience standpoint.
Okay. So who's your favorite shark and why?
Mark Cuban. Absolutely. So
Marky Mark.
Yeah,
we out here, man.
It's got to be Mark Cuban. I feel like just because his early background and where he started off with, you know, I was just taking his master class last week, right? He started as a kid selling trash bags door to door, you know? And that was a pretty cool story to hear. He started off in entry-level sales, and I feel like I can relate to that. He's a big avid basketball fan. I'm not a fan of his team. I'm a Phoenix Suns fan myself, so I can't really roll with the Mavericks on that one. But
I'm a Lakers fan, man. Lakers fan. Lakers all the way.
Yeah, you feeling pretty good about them this season?
I mean, I'm feeling good about them every year when I was in L.A.
But I also like Damon John, too. He's another shark on there. I just feel like his story is pretty inspirational. And same thing, you know, his first business, I think he was sewing clothes for his mom, and then he started For Us, By Us, his clothing line.
FUBU.
Yeah, FUBU. And, you know, like I said, I started.
You ever had some FUBU clothes?
Huh? I don't have any anymore. I did.
I used to rock FUBU all the time. That used to be my go-to, man. And Sean John back in the days, yeah, bring me back.
I don't have any anymore, but I used to have some. I outgrew them a while ago. Like,
but
size-wise.
he's an icon, man. Damon is a icon, and Mark, man, great guy, great personality. You could just tell like he a real dude. I say like him and Damon are my favorite as well, just because like we can relate to so many things within their stories and what they actually had to overcome growing up, and the hustle. Like it's different. Like if you're willing to become a salesperson and be proud of being, some people look at sales as something bad for some reason. They got this like bad light on sales, and I take pride in selling. Like that's actually what got me to where I'm at now, is being able to like build rapport with people and communicate my product and believe in my product enough to be able to get you to believe in it. Like that transfer of energy is sales to me. Like if a baby can get me to do something and feed her whatever she, like, you know what I mean? Like we've been selling at such a young age that we don't even see it as sales. Like, and we look bad and we shine a bad light. So how impactful is sales for you, and why would you think for young entrepreneurs out there watching us, why they should like really go hard with the sales?
Yeah, I mean, sales is important. I mean, look, you can't have a business without sales, right? You can't have a business without sales. And, you know, some people would argue, oh, well, you know, I'll just hire somebody else who has sales experience to do it for me. Well, at that point, how can you identify if they're actually good at it?
Right.
You know, what if everything fails and it comes down to you? right? But I feel like the biggest misconception with sales is some people think it's about convincing people to do something. Exactly. It's really not. I tell people all the time on my sales team at work, right? Sales is not about convincing somebody to do something. It's about identifying a need, identifying a problem, getting to know your customer, getting to know your client, and tying those things into each other, trying to find ways to fill those needs and fill those problems. And so I feel like if you lack those skills, it's going to be very, 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 very challenging for you to sell a product for one. But if you're trying to pitch your vision and pitch your business plan to an investor, and you don't have the confidence to actually do that and have the confidence to ask for the money, then, good luck. It's probably not going to happen.
Exactly.
I mean, it's brutally honest, but it's true.
Have you ever heard of Grant Cardone?
Yes.
Yeah, that's my guy. That's who I study. That's kind of pretty much my mentor when it comes to like business in a whole, sales in a whole. So every aspect of that is just get that exchange and really you got to believe in your product and you got to believe in yourself. And confidence is what you deliver into the customer. Confidence that you can solve their problem. And that's why sales is number one when it comes to this business stuff, man. So I want you to leave us with some words of wisdom, man. Let the people know what you learned within your journey and how they should attack this business stuff.
Yeah, so, when it comes to having an idea or having a business, I hear people all the time talking about ideas that they have, how they're going to do something, right? But it comes down to execution, right? You're going to make mistakes at first. When it comes to your first business plan, whatever you have in your first business plan is probably not going to be what your business evolves into, right? Your ideas are going to change. Your principles are going to change. Your values are going to change. You're going to learn so much along the way. You're going to have to give yourself room to fail, right? You don't have to be great to start. You just have to start so that way you can become great. A lot of the successful business owners and successful entrepreneurs and successful CEOs out there, they've made so many mistakes along the ways. They've had career mistakes. They've had failed businesses. And I think the average millionaire has 7 failed businesses before he makes his first $1 million business. Yeah. Just be willing to start. It doesn't matter where, just get started and figure out as you go. It's just the fact that you show up and the fact that you get started is, you have to start somewhere. And if you don't, if you're just trying to think that everything is going to be perfect and you're trying to think of the perfect start, you're trying to think of, the perfect plan, by the time you come up with that, it's going to be too late.
I love it. That's great. Get started. Y'all heard them, people. Just make sure that y'all take that step forward to get to where you want. Fail forward. If anything, fail forward. Don't worry about the outcome. If you keep driving, you keep on moving towards what you want, you'll learn all the things that you need to learn to get to the next move and get to the next step into your success. I appreciate you coming on my show, man. We good, man. Great information and great. It was a great time spending with you and good to know you, man. So it's your boy Ace Billions here with the Billionaire Mafia Podcast. Make sure y'all subscribe. Tune in with us for the next one. Appreciate y'all.
Take care.
Know he a genius, he just can't claim it. Cause they left him no platforms to explain it. He frustrated, so he get faded. But deep down inside, he know you can't